大家好，欢迎来到跟陈老师学汉语。省略主语。In this video, I'll explain when and why you can omit subjects in Chinese sentences. Let's look at the first conversation. Please read after me. 读过那本书吗？有趣吗？很有趣。好的，那买一本。In this conversation, the person A asks the person B, have you read the book? The basic Chinese sentence structure is subject plus verb plus object. And this Chinese sentence only has a verb, 读过, and an object, 那本书, plus a question word in the end. The subject you is missing in the Chinese sentence. If we put it back, then it would be 你读过那本书吗? When the person B responds, he says 有趣吗? Literally, it means interesting. Considering that the person B knows that the person A is asking about whether he has read that book, then the subject is not a must in the Chinese sentence. Again, we can also put the subject back in the Chinese sentence. Then it would be 它有趣吗? The same, the person A answers 很有趣. Literally, it means interesting. The subject is also omitted. Actually, in English, we can also say interesting instead of saying it is interesting. Let's also put the subject back. Then the Chinese sentence would be 它很有趣. At last, the person B says 好的，那买一本. Literally, it means okay, then buy one. In the Chinese sentence, the subject I, 我 has also been omitted. So, why subjects can be omitted in Chinese sentences? First, it's because they are easy to be told from the context. In Chinese, it is very common to omit the subject, especially in conversations where the speakers know what they are referring to. And as long as you convey your message clearly enough in the respective context, the subject can be omitted. Although it is usually optional and the subject can be used, it may be a better idea to omit it to let the conversation flow more naturally. This is the second reason why we omit the subjects in Chinese sentences. Let's look at the second conversation. In this conversation, there are three persons. Please read after me. 读过那本书吗？在问我吗？不是，在问他。读过，很有趣。The person A asks, have you read that book? Like in the first conversation, the subject, you, 你, has been omitted in the Chinese sentence. Then the person B answers, are you asking me? In the Chinese sentence, the subject, you, 你, is also omitted. But we know that he is replying person A by the context. Then the person A says, no, I'm asking her. The subject, I, 我, also has been omitted. At last, the person C says, I've read that book. It is interesting. In the Chinese sentence, the subject, I and it have been omitted. This is a case in which you don't always know what your conversation partner is talking to, especially when there are more than two persons in the conversation. To get clarification, you can ask a question to confirm who is he talking to find out the missing subject. Now, let's look at the last conversation. Also, there are A, B, C, three persons. A says, have you read that book? B answers, is it interesting? C replies, it is interesting. From the context, we would know that the person B have not read the book, and he asks, is it interesting? and the person C have read the book and she thinks the book is interesting. The same, all three persons have not used the subjects in their sentences. Let's put them back. These sentences are also correct. We can also say them in this way. As I have explained in the first conversation, we can get what the speakers are referring to by the context, and also omitting the subjects makes the conversation flow more naturally. That's why we usually omit subjects in spoken language. When spoken, the grammar of Chinese is very flexible. I need to notice you that if you are not having a conversation, instead you are writing a letter or some official document, it would be better not to omit the subjects. Okay, that's all about when and why you can omit subjects in Chinese sentences. 谢谢，下节课再见。If you like my video, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.